But to me, this goalkeeping situation, and I've got to be honest, that does have to be on Ten Hag, because he was the one that, you know, who vetoed for all of these. He's the one that said, yeah, I want to do this, and
Yeah.
ultimately it has kicked him straight in the bollocks. And it's like when you're walking in a autumn time in a field covered with leaves. Unfortunately, what you don't know is that there's a ton of pitchforks in there that when you step on them, you're going to get whacked in the face. And Ten Hag's walked into this field, has sort of half been told in his ear, but his sort of selective hearing tells him that he's ignored it. So he goes and walks into this field and starts stepping on all of these pitchforks, and is getting whacked in the face repeatedly with the same goalkeeping problem, and it's costing Manchester United dearly. And I think that poses an even bigger problem now, because you let a goalkeeper go for free, spend 50 million thereabouts on a
Yeah.
replacement. Now, how are you going to get 50 million to sell for him, to then spend probably near about the same amount of money to replace Anana again? So we've added more work to do in the future by creating a bigger problem than what we had before, and it stacks up. And the last thing we want to do for a new board that's set to come in is just pile on and pile on and pile on even more work, because it takes away more and more of perhaps a streamline of effort or movement to getting this team to being more successful, to killing a toxic culture.
I think this is the problem you've got, isn't it? Because you've never addressed one problem, or many problems. You're just kind of, in certain respects, just papering over the cracks and hoping that we'll see it through. We'll see the season through by just doing that, keeping in, like you said, Anana. I mean, at least with us, we do mix it up with Areola or Fabianski. At least Moyes is not afraid to make that kind of change. And if you look at it with De Gea, what you should have done at that point is, yes, you had backup keepers, but get someone in that will give him a bit more competition.
Mm.
It'll stop him from being stale, because he wasn't a bad keeper when you think about it. It's just a fact of stagnates, because you've got that same position, and in certain respects, you can look at Onana. Wouldn't say it's a big price tag for a keeper, but at the same point, you've still got to do your job. And when you're making silly kind of basic mistakes, and you're still playing week in, week out, every person, or the world and his wife, can say that. Why is he still in goal? How are we doing, Henry?
Mm.
Why is he still in goal? It shouldn't be the case. When you look at, you mentioned Ramsdale. I mean, for me, the problem with Ramsdale last season is the fact that when they lost to Saliba, that's when they started making mistakes.
Mm.
And it's more, you could easily look at the keeper, but you could look at the outfield players first of all.
Yeah.
Gabriel didn't know what to do with himself, and then for Ramsdale, is what do? Do you basically make that? Do you come out for a goal, or do you stay on your line, and vice versa? It's a catch-22. But when you look at Onana making some schoolboy errors, some really big schoolboy errors, it's
I think all you need with a goalkeeper, if you are sort of coming into the club like Manchester United, is to understand that your personality is probably going to count for naught. You've got to make a personality now, and create yourself a character that is very dominant in that box, is very commanding figure, and not to act on indecision. Act decisively. If you get something wrong, you'll know, right, so I've reacted in this situation. And that's the thing. If you are critical of yourself and you really do sort of hamper down what it is that you get wrong, because, I mean, for God's sakes, most of the modern clubs nowadays have about 1,000 analysts and video analysts and data experts, that it's built like a Formula One team.
Of course it is.
It's like a F1 garage or something like that. And it's like there's that many people who could give you all the insights you need. And improve on your game. But for me, it feels like Onana's just regressed into a shell. He doesn't command anything, and it tends to be the case that even when we can sit here and say, well, it's the centre back's fault for the goal, but you can always pick out something that Onana's either doing or not doing as a contributor to avoiding the goal, to helping prevent it. So for me, there's got to be some sort of reflection from Andre Onana to actually trying to do something to stop this stagnation, as you said.
Well, I'll take to that then. Maybe we've got to look at the bigger picture. Is it the player? Do we have to look at the manager? What is he? Is it the case of, like you mentioned, most clubs now with the sports science, the analysts, and this is Ten Hag one of those where I don't want all that going on there. It's my team. I'm running it this way, and have we thought of that? Could Ten Hag be the problem in the way the team? I mean, clearly today, if you look at it, if you didn't have Garnacho playing today, you're not getting them goals. It's pure and simple. So you could look at that side of things. Are the players actually playing for the manager? Because you look at certain games previous in the last 4 or 5 games. To me, there's a sign that they're not exactly playing for him. So you've got to question the manager in that respect as well.
Yeah, I feel like with in terms with Onana and Ten Hag, I mean they both played well. Ten Hag managed Onana at Ajax and actually got him into a good state before he ended up getting suspended with his doping thing and was banned for a year, and then sort of revitalised his career at Inter Milan and did a good job there. So in terms of the quality of goalkeeper, we know that he is better than what he's doing. We know he's better. It's interesting to me that he's coming to Manchester United, and maybe in terms of not rotating or dropping, Onana is to do with a bias from Ajax that Ten Hag's like, well, I want to keep Onana playing him. I want to play him through this rough patch because I know he can be good. I think sometimes bias from managers like that can really, it's like a sacrificial lamb. I'm willing to sacrifice my career. I'm being stubborn with a player I know, and I want to trust in to come good to get me out of this problem. But it's backfiring a whole hell of a lot more than it is working in your favour.
Yeah.
And as for some players, for most parts, not playing for the manager, it's annoying that the games like this happen because it takes a character and a response to a manager's half-time conversations that get a team going from being defeated, and a team that usually when we concede a goal, the heads are gone. So when from a situation where the heads are dropped, getting at half-time, and they come out and they start playing, and it's like you can't just play as though you're just switching it on. It's like a light switch with like a 3-year-old. They're playing around with it. Haha, it's switching on and off again. You can't just keep doing that. So again, it's also a big part of the players in their personalities and characters. Like, why aren't you mentally consistent in response? Like, a manager can be the reason you lose a game. His message might not get through to you. But sometimes with a manager, when the dressing room's lost or they don't play for him, it happens on a more consistent basis where players don't get games or teams don't get a game like this where you're from a losing position to a winning position, and that you actually play decent for most of that game. And it gives off these weird vibes and messages, and it's like, but what is actually going on? Like, who's on side with this manager? You could probably say there's a few players in that dressing room that are trying to carry, the willpower of the manager, but there's the others that drag it down. So on other days, if the players aren't up for a fight, the ones that are backing the manager, the whole thing just plagues like the dressing room entirely, and everyone ends up slumping in defeat. Whereas you get games like this where there's more players who back the manager playing for him, and all the other ones that usually just slump in defeat actually get a little bit piped up. They find an extra gear. There's one question I've got to ask you. Your viewpoint on perhaps there being anything to do with Sir Dave Brailsford being sat in the stands for this game, that you think that these players might be thinking, well, there's someone who I'm pretty sure would be more than happy to rip up my contract if I don't start behaving and pulling my finger out. Because that's the thing. You get a new ball come in, your best mates, right, who signed you, who gave you your lucrative wages, bye-bye. Daddy's left. Daddy's gone to get the milk and he ain't coming back for you.
Yeah. No,
now
totally
you've got the
agree on that.
stepfather, your disciplinarian stepfather coming in, and he's going to beat the hever-loving shit out of you. And that's got to be, that might be in some of those players' minds. What's your take on it?
No, I think it's a great analogy of it. I mean, when you look at today, I mean, the Nuno effect at Forest. New manager comes in, players play out of their skin.
Sick result, by the way. And Chris Wood, Chris Wood of all people. I mean, I know Yeti just does not like him.
I know.
Yeti's fed up and done with him. I said that Chris Wood can actually be a decent backup striker to warn you. He can be. And he goes and single-handedly bosses Newcastle at St. James's Park.
Well, if you want to kind of do like a Lord of the Ring thing, Chris Wood suddenly becomes an Ent and all of a sudden bangs in a hat-trick, he's out of nowhere. But, yeah, when you look at Lord Bradford sitting in the stands there, you've got to think as any player in that, if you catch wind that one of the top dogs is sitting up in there and they control my livelihood, my career, then you're gonna play a little bit different. Your method and your kind of way of thinking is going to be different because, in certain respects, you're playing for your job. So, I'm making what you said there is a great point. It is a really great point, and I will agree on that.
Yeah. Is it okay if you drop me a DM out of the doors?
Yeah, well, no problems. I will do, Luca. No worries.
But
yeah, because obviously it's like, I asked the question earlier on one of the other channels. Now you've got Radcliffe in, and he's going to be dealing more with the players rather than what the Glazers are doing. You're going to see, hopefully you're going to see, shall I say, Touchwood, Four-leaf Clover, Rabbit's Foot, and everything else. More of a change in the player, what you're bringing in, what you're going to kind of get release, and how you kind of adopt that kind of mentality of what he actually wants, because that's what you need to do to restore yourself back to the way you are.
Yeah.
It's going to be a long process, but hopefully it's going to be a process that's going to come to fruition sooner rather than later.
Yeah, it's like as with you said with what players you bring in and getting the release, and for me it's the culture. And if you've got if you've got a disciplinarian manager with a very relaxed kickback, not really doing it's like a mates race or jobs for the boys kind of approach with the upper management positions, players know they can bypass a manager to get their way at the club. But if there's a no bullshit tolerance at the club in positions of power, those players know, oh my God, this guy who's paying my wages, I'm not his friend. And he's telling me, listen, I'm not your best mate. I'm not your pal. You work for me. I pay your wages and I will pay you in accordance to what I think you're worth.
Exactly.
And if the past 10 years are any indicator as to how much you deserve, you're not even seeing half the wages that those Aston Villa players are seeing.
True.
And that's the thing, and it's a culture that has got to change. And with this, it is going to take some time. It is going to be a process that we're going to have to take a few windows to ship more players out that need to go, that have overstayed their welcome. and bring players in that are much more sort of they play more with passion, and they go to a club and they feel like this is the great Manchester United. I want to give everything for this badge, and not have people who are mercenaries. And the best part about it is that they're not going to have stupid wages, because and the thing is, wages can kill a player's ambition very quickly. And if the culture, right, is if it stinks, you fast track that player's decline to stagnation. And that's a common thing, because players come in with good promise, they always leave having to sell them for less, let them leave for free because we can't sell them and their wages are too big. And that's the thing, market value of every player that we sign has declined.
Not being well, yeah, it's true, isn't it? I mean, because for me, the typical example of one of your homegrown and that is Rashford. You know, he's on some serious money, and he's not the player like he used to be. That's for sure. It's on the call.
Sorry,
he's back in the room. No, that's
Mama Fuzz.
I thought it was.
At least this time, yeah. At least this time she's not coming to invade the stream, so we're okay.
I think, say, when you look at the fact of Rashford, the money he's on, and you look at his performance, it doesn't really kind of justify itself. I mean, fun enough, we were talking earlier. I mean, like you said, like with the players, if you're going to move them on, it was on Yeti's channel with Bance and Jez. We were talking about them offloading players, and you consider some of them have been there since, you know, BC kind of thing. They've been there that long. How can you actually ship them off and expect money out of them, or top dollar? Because at the end of the day, and that they're not going to get that for the players. And it's the same with some of your guys that have been sitting there forever and a day. How are you going to ship them off and expect to get any money? Or, as you said, just kind of like, okay, we'll take 5 million, we'll take 10 million, 11. Whereas you paid maybe 30, 40, 50 million for them, and you're going to offload them for so much less. It's a one thing. But like you said, it's a stigma of your club, because you're Man United. You should be kind of attracting the better player. But this is why I question, obviously, when you look at Ten Hag, it's still too much of a Ajax kind of ideology of what he brings in, what he kind of signs, and it's not. They're not Man United players. That's, in my eyes, they're not Man United players. They're not a Man United type of player that you should have at your club.
Just bringing up this comment from BT that Højlund being celebrated when on average he scores one Premier League goal every 1,026 minutes. Our standards have slipped so low. Is in terms of Højlund's goal scoring record in the Premier League? I know that he's only just scored his first Premier League goal today, and he came in the summer. He hasn't been that unbelievably bad. I mean, it's very easy to slip into seeing a player doesn't score a huge amount of goals and say that player's the worst player the Premier League has ever seen. Easy. I mean, he's Højlund, to me, is better a quality of player than, say, someone like a Val Weghorst. There's opportunities there that sure Højlund can do better, and perhaps if he had done better in various instances, he probably would have had like 5 or 6 goals, maybe even 7 goals in the Premier League by now. There are some big opportunities that he does miss. What's your take on Rasmus Højlund at the moment? Do you think that it is a case that he hasn't been terrible, but there is definitely a lot of room for improvement there?
Yeah, of course. I think it comes down to what we just mentioned then. from where the league he was playing in before, which he was more comfortable with, you come into the Premier League, and then there's obviously a different style of play, physicality, mentality, and has he adapted? Clearly not. So when you look at it like that, is he trying too hard? Yes, definitely. You expect, not being funny, when you see some English players, they can come into another club and before you know it, they are scoring goals just for fun. Hoyland, unfortunately, he's not in that situation. So, yeah, one goal in 1,026 minutes. You can see why they're all happy for him, and that's good. But there's a time and a place, I think, in certain respects. You know what I mean? And when you look at it, yes, it's his first goal. Great, celebrate it. But come on, let's get the win. Let's carry on going. Because at that stage, Villa were still in it, and it could have been a draw at that stage, or they could have gone on to win the game. So, yeah, great. Celebrate afterwards in the change room, but celebrate only for a couple of minutes. Crack on.
Yeah, and I think in terms of fan perception, I think it's looking statistically at a player, it's very easy to think of them as like, oh, that's just shit player. And one goal for every 1,026 minutes. Nah, shit, get rid of him. At the same time, it's like you just watched a game where we come from 2-0 down, and the player who's just scored his first Premier League goal is a winning goal. So looking at the game as an isolated game, in hindsight, you say, well, Rasmus Højlund who actually scores that goal. If it's somebody else, if it's Anthony Martial who's playing up front, would he be a winning goal scorer, game-winning goal scorer? I'm not too sure. I mean,
yeah, it's one of those.
It's like in hindsight, it's whilst you're watching the game, it's like, yeah, great, don't over egg the pudding. There's still a game to be won, and that's kind of my thought process when we go 3-2 up, because we've done it before where we can. I think it was Galatasaray, most notably, where we score to go 3-1 up or something. We still end up not winning the game, and it's just like, but you have a good advantageous position. You get into a winning position, you still let the game go. I think in hindsight, it's like, as I've said with the get to the final whistle, a wave of relief just washes over you. It's just like, thank God I get to let go of those emotions and feelings and thinking, we need to hold on, we need to don't lose it. Like we believe that you can do and do way too often. Don't lose the game. Don't let it slip. But yeah, I think in terms of longevity, hopefully Højlund kicks on. I would like to see, because the thing is he came in and I was probably one of the first people to critique the signing, because I was like, you're signing this player who's only scored like 9 goals competitively for Atalanta last season, and you're sticking such a big price tag on him. I'm looking at guys like John Merton, like, but why are you putting him there as the star man? If he comes in as the backup to a genuinely good signing, you can sit there and have a different viewpoint on it and say, well, let's see how well he does in transitioning into the Premier League and having someone to feed off of, someone to actually grow and shape his game based off of. But that never happened, and he's essentially come in, and the only player he's really got to grow off of is bloody Anthony Martial, who's been here way too long and then sits half the time on an injury table. So it's like, well, of course, Rasmus Højlund, he's basically got to do, at his age, he's got to do what most players in their mid-20s to late 20s struggle to do, right? To go from another league into the Premier League and actually bring those numbers over, or to improve on those numbers. Some players can do it, but it's not very often. No. I mean, the amount of times we've seen players come from other leagues, and strikers more specifically, and absolutely belly flop so hard into the ground that they've ended up in China. Um, it's just probably another one of those cases. So fingers crossed. We've got too many Bruce Forsyth fans. Oh, they do well? Didn't they do well? Do you know what, Big T? Every time we win a game, I'll just say that, just to spite it.
See,
I watched.
our classic one was, because like you said with him, was Sebastian Haller.
Mm,
There was so much riding on him, but Moyes' system just didn't suit the player, and then we sell him for less,
mm.
and he started banging in goals again.
What about Skamaka?
And same thing there. When you look at the like
Yeah.
that as well, two players where Moyes played his way, didn't adapt to the player style,
Mm,
and both struggled.
mm,
Both got criticised because it's a case of like, they're crap, they can't score goals. But then they go to another league,
mm,
and then before you know it, there they are bagging in goals. And Haller done it with two teams, Ajax as well as Dortmund. So
mm,
it puts it down to how the manager plays that player.
mm. Absolutely. BT says, I'll watch Alanga thinking Anthony, why? Well, I'll tell you what. Anthony Alanga, keeping a game quite simple, is actually quite a, I don't know about efficient. I just think in certain things that a winger can do, if you've got pace, is burn it. Burn that pace, because just being super quick but using your pace well is an absolute nightmare for a lot of teams. And if you play a high line, I mean, Newcastle, they'll push their defensive line up. If there's a pacey winger that's just relentless, I'm sorry, but Trippier, Sven Botman, Shah, and Dan Burn, that's pretty much Newcastle's first choice back line. And they got ran ragged at times in that game.
Mm.
Like that's saying something. And if Anthony has got some pace or a little bit of ability about him, sometimes just simplify your game as opposed to try and be, this skillful player who does some step overs, uh, some rainbow flicks, and then passes it about 50 yards back to Wan-Bissaka or to Varane or whoever it is sat in defence. It's like, of course, with price tags, we talk about price tags all day, because at the same time of saying, yeah, no, he's not worth that, we had idiots in our boardroom negotiating and overpaying every single transfer in the past decade or so. So, of course, there's that element to it. But Anthony, even if you were bought for 30 million, what we're seeing from Anthony is not 30 million pounds. It isn't 30 million pounds. It's almost. I mean, we let Elanga go for 15 mil. Does Anthony Elanga look like a 15 million pound player, or does he look closer to something like a 30 mil?
Mm.
And Nottingham Forest, it is only half a season. He's got another half of the season to show just exactly what he's got in his locker, to grow into that setup, and he can do it for a second season and go another season after that, or however long it is that he's at that club. Maybe he just goes, superstar, and somebody else of a bigger club actually come in for him and say, actually, you're pretty well developed now. Now we're going to sign you. And it's like, but we're stuck with Anthony, who's still being a fidget spinner in the corner of Old Trafford. Meanwhile, Anthony Alanga goes from a club reject to, relevancy. That can't be ignored. And that's the thing. I'm seeing Anthony do this and Alanga do that. Like they're going past each other.
Passing.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think of Anthony Alanga?
I like him. I say when he first came on the scene and that, he looked like he was a good homegrown talent and a boy come good kind of. But obviously he just didn't fit in with the manager's plans. But Cooper took him on at Forest, and yeah, he's shone. I think he got injured, and he's back in it again. Whereas Anthony, yeah, enough said. I don't need to say any more on that one because
I think there's a. I got to be honest. I think maybe for as much as I would have like I wanted Ten Hag to come in to begin with. My perception on how football is nowadays has seemingly sort of gone like backwards to more of a time where it's like I look at managers try and complicate football with systems and formations and players doing very specific tasks and system players, and how perhaps Anthony is not fit for any system football on the planet. He is probably just literally just from grassroots or favela roots, literally just a wild player, just a raw player. He's not fitting in. Like he hasn't got, say, a technical ability to pull off tactical instructions from any manager of a higher level. If he goes to a team where it's just like, well, go and express yourself. Spend the next, spend most of your training sessions working on, the ways in which you can creatively be a player, and I'll let you go and express yourself on a football pitch, because he would do that at Ajax. He was given more freedom to do that, and he was beating players quite well, like running it up on the bylines, and when the space isn't there, he'd literally work around you like he's in a telephone box, like Lionel Messi used to. Like to quote, I've forgotten what his Scottish commentator, the one that just has orgasms every time he commentates on Messi, and it's like. And I think that's maybe one of the reasons why perhaps Anthony has had such a massive fall from any recognised grace, that he's not fit for a system team. So you sort of look at it and think, but if Ten Hag was going to be playing a different way or try to impose a system that's not what he used at Ajax, Anthony's got to become a player that he isn't. So we're probably seeing a player that Anthony isn't, and it's not good and it's not working, but there's no alternatives for Anthony. So it might be the case that Anthony, to actually see a better version of Anthony, is he actually goes to a different club where it's less instruction and more freedom to the player.
It's a good point, but I think, like I said, it goes back to Ten Hag. What is he? Is his management skills questionable? Is he actually kind of restricting with the information he's given to Anthony? Is Anthony doing too much? We always know that players like to showboat every now and then, but you don't do it for 90 minutes. And unfortunately, with Anthony, that's what you get. And he's been found out pretty early. But then, as a manager, if you've bought a player and you know the player, you've got to realise that you've also got to adapt. It's not, you're not in the Dutch league anymore. You're in the Prem, and it's a different style. So your method's got to change. The player's got to change in certain respects as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, if he's not a Man United player, then he's got to be shipped out, because no matter what he does, he's not gonna. If he's not gonna show any improvement, then he's just basically a lost cause for you guys, and you need to cash out and move on.
Yeah, surplus to requirements, but again, it goes back to having overpaid so considerably for him. Yeah, you're going to have to take the hit.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's going to come in the form of another board or a different board. They're going to be sitting there thinking, well, Jesus Christ, all the finances, look how much money this club has spent, but look how much return we're going to get. Absolutely nothing. Barely even a couple of grains of sand. Maybe.
Sorry, mate. I was going to say, Rafa's looking after the players and development, isn't he?
Well, it's the sport. It's the sporting control that he wants his ownership to have, but then he's going to have a full set board, group to operate everything in a football sense. So that goes right the way down to academy as well. So that's the men's, all the levels of the academy team for men's and the women's team. So everything right the way across the board for sporting. and supposedly in that deal, someone like a Joel Glazer or Avram Glazer can't stick their nose in and say, I don't think you should sign that player because I don't rate him. Apparently that can't happen anymore. So it's solely a professional opinion that's deciding who we sign and who we don't sign, and that's what apparently is being reported. So I mean, again, it might be something that gets reported, and then what gets reported doesn't actually happen.
Yeah,
so
of course.
you got, I think it's like trying to operate a minefield and just praying that you don't step on a landmine. But HotFuzz and Tony Big Up can't actually save Ten Hag. Well, I mean, he's the most impactful player. He had a goal ruled out as well, so he could have had a hat trick today, Garnacho. And it's been a while since we've had a player last score a hat trick, so that would have been something. And I ripped it up today, absolutely, including Chris Wood. I mean, Jesus Christ, Chris Wood, hat trick goal scorer. Hey, Arsenal fans, if you ever want to figure out how to go beat Newcastle at St James's Park, go buy Chris Wood's pending book release. Read and how to score against Newcastle. Tony, will you be doing a watch along for the Arsenal v West Ham game on your channel?
I may consider doing that actually, because I say I'm going to go on with Tony Claw, do a preview game, hopefully at 6 o'clock tomorrow. And then obviously, yeah, I look forward to doing it if I can. Yeah, I'll look to do it if I can. Get it all set up and that as long as time allows me. So yes, but I'll put it on the usual YouTube business.
We play better with Berghorst. We play better with Berghorst in the team than we do with Højlund. But is that really? I mean, we play better with Berghorst in the team, but just in general, Man United were playing better last season anyway. With Berghorst in the team, with Berghorst out the team, United were playing better by default. The whole team is just shit this season. So even with Berghorst was there, it wouldn't make a difference because it would still be shit with Berghorst. It would still be shit with Højlund. It's like it's just 50 shades of shit. Big up HotFuzz.
Big up Taib.
Big up Taib, man. When Chris Wood is outscoring you, you know it's time to hang up your boots. Can you imagine if Højlund actually retires before Chris Wood? Chris Wood just seems like one of them players that just ends up playing until like he's 50. It's like the bloke in the Japanese league or something where he just keeps getting 1-year extensions to his contract and he's still playing at like the age of 50. And you're like, or like 56 or something. Like, how? How? Wow, what a game. What a comeback. Absolutely keeping it real, Chelsea. Big ups to you, man. And he chatted in your stream and he's come to chat in mine. So big ups to man.
Big up. Big up.
So you're saying he needs to play in a shit league because now he gets marked he's rubbish? Not really. I mean, what I've said is that the system that he's playing is like a player has to change. And to be honest, where I've used Anthony as an example of this, don't you, Early Doors, feel like the standard of football by individual quality has dropped? Because everyone's trying to do, perfect the 5-yard pass, guys. Like a goalkeeper needing to play out from the back and not make mistakes. I'm sorry, bro.
Yeah,
it's meant to stop shots.
There is that problem. I mean, I did mention it a couple of days ago on a stream. It's the fact of how many teams this day and age play with 2 strikers up top. You always find it's the same kind of format. You know, we'll either play with inverted wingers, we'll either play with a false number 9. We don't look to go at all out attack all the time now. It's like a standardized package, right? You know, right? You play that, this team plays it, we play it, we play it. No one's kind of like saying, right, I'm going to just change up a little bit. So when you look at something like that, yeah, your comment it's got a lot of relevance behind it, because sometimes it becomes too boring. Because you know full well they're going to receive the ball. He's going to knock it out wide. Player goes down the line. He's either going to cut in or he's going to deliver the ball in. it's going to get lost, comes back again, defence pick it up, and we're seeing the same repetitive football being played all the time. Or with certain teams, it's just a case of we go forwards, we bring it back, we knock it to the side, we bring it back, we knock it to the side, we bring it back, we go back, we go back, we go to the side, we go back. It just becomes too monotonous.
And I think I've got a question / statement or something that I think solves this comment altogether. If Ronaldinho, prime Ronaldinho, was dropped in his prime into modern day football, would he ever been as great as he was back then?
The problem there, the problem I see, shall I say, is probably the best way to word it, is the fact of that boy's, he had natural talent. Yeah, and when you look at something like that statement you dropped there, you then, in certain respects, you take that individuality away from the player, because you then got to standardise him in with the type of football you play now. So you lose that kind of natural raw talent because you expect the player to play that way, whereas the players wanting to do a lot more. And I suppose if you look at it, maybe, and I say a big maybe, so don't hold me to that, HotFuzz, that's what Anthony's probably doing. He feels like he's being stifled because he wants to show a lot more, but because of the way the system is, he has to play this particular way. And he's not just the only one. There's several players I think have this exactly the same kind of hold back because they want to show a lot more, but they know they can't because if they do, they're off the pitch and sitting on the subs bench warming up with the others. That's the best way I can word it.
Because I thought about that question / statement is because where, say, a player like Ronaldinho, where you look back at his career and you see the way in which he had natural ability, raw talent, and it was just ridiculous. Like to me, he personified proper samba Brazilian football, like proper, like futsal, five-a-side type football. I mean, that's the kind of background he somewhat came from. If you dropped him in the modern game today, or before his prime, say, he would never really have been allowed to go into a game in the modern day in like the Premier League or La Liga or something like, well, maybe more so Liga, but the Premier League, and be given the freedom to go and just try and express himself. Because I think if he has like a game where a few things go wrong, that manager's probably telling, right, okay, if you do that again, you're not playing ever again. So Ronaldinho has to start simplifying his game. The genius starts to fade away. And a couple of other examples for modern day players that I can probably bring up as well. And I think the Gunner said it on Saeed's channel. Guys like Martinelli started at Arsenal ripping it up. The guy's frustrating to watch now. Luis Diaz at Liverpool. Guy was mad, like low center of gravity, great acceleration, twisting and turning. Like the guy literally took fidget spinner and made it deadly. He stuck spikes on the end of that shit. and now it's like Luis Diaz looks like he's getting more and more like a one-dimensional player. There's only really one thing you expect him to do on a football pitch, and it becomes readable. There is a thing that I feel like players that have that edge to them, where they have that very skillful style, it's getting coached out of them way too often. And I think sometimes you need a player that has that ability to have a go at unleashing that ability to perhaps to the betterment of the team in the moment. But I feel like there's not enough chances, say, given to a player to actually progress that side of their game. It's just constant regression in that until they get to a point where it's like, how good can you keep the ball on the wing, but without dribbling into the box?
You've hit a good thing there, because I think if you look at it, it ain't just just one player. I think it's how football's becoming now, and that's why, in certain respects, you hear it quite often being said that football has become boring.
Mm.
Big up Germinio, good seeing you. Merry
Biggest man.
Christmas to you as well, mate. I think this is the problem. It's football is kind of becoming boring. You can see, as on a commercial level, it's all about making the pound and pence and what we take over the counter. And that's why we don't see so many youngsters coming through the game now. We'll either kind of you're buying a player that's already established, or you're buying from a foreign country, and you expect them to come over to here and hit the ground running. And because the way the system has changed, and it's just like a standardised, here's the instruction booklet, we play it like this, and no other way. And it restricts a lot of football. So I think that's why a lot of people I think are switching off from watching football these days, because it's a case of it's too standardised, it's too boring.
There's one advert I got a reference. I don't know if I've referenced it once before already on a stream, and it's the one about it's around the time of the 2014 World Cup, the cartoon advert where they had all the cartoon characters Nike had, where it's like they've got to risk it all, and football, they all get replaced by all the robots and stuff. Do you feel like football's starting to get a little bit like that advert now? They want too much of the perfection. Let's take the natural and the chancing, the ability, like Zlatan Ibrahimovic doing an overhead kick. Oh, let's ridicule him because it has a very high chance percentage of failing. But then you look at a Garnacho doing it in a game, 3 minutes in, and it's one of the best goals you've ever seen. And it's like, you kill that magic if you coach it out of a player to take away that edge to go and pull something out of the hat. And if you kill that side of the game, it gets too boring. Players, I think, sort of feel like, well, I lose a bit of the passion to play it as well, because money's one thing, it can kill your motivation. But if you're playing just 5-yard passes for a whole 90 minutes, you don't feel that same magic as a player. You don't feel very special. If you get to finish a game, go home, stick up the highlight reel and finds like players clipped you up like about 50 times in a game where you've absolutely just broken players' ankles by sending them the wrong way, sending them to chippies. And it's like, I mean, that kill. Like, if I'm a player and I don't have that, or if I used to have it, like I'd want to go back to that. I'd love to go back to that. But
it's like it's been coached out of you. I mean, it's, I suppose, if the chalk and cheese of things, look at the Sheffield United Luton game today. Now, that personifies the old school kind of type of football, slugging it out, trying to get a result, and at the last minute you get the winner. Whereas you're saying with the top teams, it's more technical based. That pass has got to be precise. You've got to make sure that you put the right amount of weight through the pass as you make contact with the ball. It's got to hit a certain area on the boot to make sure that the pass is going to go to that player. If it hits anywhere else, it's not going to make the play. So here comes big up Stephanie. How we doing? It's one of those, isn't it? And unfortunately, it's like I said, it's where football's coming now. And what's this here? Yeah, I agree. Fast on was coach.
and that's the thing. That's another thing, is a player's aggression. It's like, if it was modern day, I remember one very significant clip that it's funny to think about, is when there's a drop ball after I think Rooney had an initial challenge that he was frustrated about, and it cited an injury. I think they had to do a substitution. The referee did a drop ball. It was him and another player. So referee drops the ball. Rooney's almost kicked the ball out of the referee's hand and almost swiped his studs across the other player. The other player sort of half kicks the ball in front of him, and then Rooney goes and absolutely clatters it. A second time, the referee's just like, okay, now stop. I mean, it's things like that, and that persona that made a big part of Rooney's career, because if he didn't have that, tap into. It's all the little things about a player that can make it up into something special. And in the modern game, would Rooney be like? Would he have been allowed to do even half the stuff he used to do?
Well, no, that's just as many players. I mean, we had, Julian Dix. He
Mm,
would, not only would he kick you off the pitch and that, he'll kick you into row Z, regardless of that.
mm.
It's one of those, you put a challenge in. And yeah, I think it is big up
Reality.
Yeti. I think this is the problem. It is been taken out of the game. I mean, even unfortunately, I see it at Sunday football level as well, grassroots. You get referees blowing up for the stupidest things, and it's like, hold on, it's supposed to be a contact sport. What you can't brush up against a player to get the ball off of him. You can't breathe on a player anymore to win the ball off of him. It's it's not exactly a gentleman's football. Now, do you mind, dear chap, if I can just take this ball for your foot and I can go on and score a goal? It's not that way. It's a case of like, I'm going to make sure I'm going to pole axe you to the other side of the pitch, and I'm going to get, regardless if you're there or not, I'm getting that ball. But
That's
as you said,
another. There's
you
another
see people,
example.
it's been taken out of the game with certain players. They don't like it. I mean, well, but if you look at the Arsenal team when they played Luton, they didn't like being kicked all over the park. They're going to play us on Thursday. We've got some physical players in there. They're not going to match up to that.
And I'll tell you what, the modern day Arsenal, everyone's scared about a team that is very physical. The Arsenal team of old that won all the trophies, that team was hella physical.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Really physical. But they also had the ability. So you go to a place like Kenilworth Road and you're ready to sink your teeth into it. You're like, oh yeah, let's have a good game.
No, exactly. I mean, it's a great comment there by Si. I'll give it that. That's a great comment.
Just another thing as well with Wayne Rooney. There's another clip that I remember watching him, where he's chasing after a referee, screaming profanities at him, and he overtakes a referee to score a 40-yard screamer, and he's not even happy. He's just like, he goes back to effing and blinding at the referee. I'm like, bro, if that was Michael Oliver and Rooney was chasing after him, he would have stopped the play despite it being about a cross away from actually scoring a goal. He would have just gone, right, red card. You hurt my feelings. Get off the pitch. Like, but it's
well, yeah,
it's
I mean, this day and age, unfortunately, you look at certain referees, it's all about them, isn't it? It's not about the game itself.
main character syndrome, I like to call it.
Yeah, definitely.
Mike D, Michael Oliver, two.
We look at your game today. The Lions, with the Garnacho going there, the pair of them couldn't exactly decide who had done what. Was he offside or not? They go to VAR. There's a little bit of confusion there, and then before you know it, it's ruled out. But the Lions been in a position to clearly must see that. Oh yeah, he's 5 yards off already. But now you got to let them play the ball first of all, give them the opportunity to score the goal, and then turn and say, "I'm sorry, but it was offside already." It's that element that's kind of important to the game, as much as they want the game to play on. Even for the outsider or for the fan watching the game, and that is frustrating. That's basically because you think your team has just put yourself ahead, or you've drawn level, but then you get hold on, what's going on now? And everyone's looking around. The players are looking around, and it's that decision making. We were saying when we was watching the game, it's a case of how hard is it to make that decision? It's clear as day. You can see it clearly. He's offside, but.
I blame the statisticians. They made it about the numbers and probabilities, not heart, passion, and off the cuff football intelligence. And that's the thing is statisticians and I think the fans sort of catching on to this and sort of this analytical aspect of the game that I think has changed the perception on fan opinion about what football is. Where people used to just sort of, it used to be very almost black and white in how people used to perceive the game, because you loved the game and you loved playing it and you loved watching it equally. Like that, you can't, it's very rare to almost get that now, because you think about a game, you think, well, that was a good game. Those players were really good. Somebody would come up with a stat that says that this player did not do this and that, and that he had a certain percentage of things in this game, which proves to you and to the rest of the world this player is shit. But I watched him actually do good. Like I enjoyed, I was entertained by that player on the day. Does that not hold more weight with me and you as spectators than worrying about how many times Erdegaard looks at another human being on a big patch of grass? How about, is Erdegaard like skinning people alive? Is he jinking players, body fainting to the other side and smashing a weak foot shot into top bins? Is he doing that? No, but apparently the guy's world class if he looks at players more on average than somebody who doesn't. I mean, modern day football, guys.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's only going to get worse as well, because what do you know? The big money makers, they feed into that. They see what the fans are saying, and they go, "Oh yeah, let's milk that some more." So it starts to go tenfold for me. You can't give marks for that sort of stuff, so it doesn't fit with their models of data.
Mm-hmm.
100%. Man U, he's a strange one, isn't he? Manchester United is really strange, really fucking weird. I'd stay away from him. If you see him in the street, cross it immediately or go the other way. In character syndrome, I like that. It feels like it. And most notably with Mike Dean, the amount of times that you could see highlights of him, like the time when Tottenham Hotspur scored a goal, and he's just there going, yeah, running back to the halfway line. Like, fam, what is a referee doing that for? Now, what? Typical Mike Dean.
Lifting his black shirt up and then getting the old badge and kissing it.
It's like, my accumulators have come home to roost. Yes. It's because I want to see their mum, want their mum to see them on the telly. I swear it was Goldbridge was saying that when Delo got sent off. It's bloody. Oh, my mum cuts his hair. Your mum cuts my hair and stuff like. I don't know what he was going on about with Michael Oliver, who gets his hair cut by his mum. I get my hair cut by mum. There's nothing wrong with that, mate. Like, sometimes they do a good job. To be fair, only Arsenal fans think Odegaard is world class.
Absolutely. Delusional at his finest.
Yes, Fuzz, it's not about passing the eye test anymore. Then you have a chat with the bloke. He's sound, so you sign him. Now it's stats, heat maps, tackle success percentage, not that he clattered a guy. And that's the thing with the centre backs nowadays, is somewhere, somehow, statisticians will probably bring up as about 5,000 reasons as to why to sign Harry Maguire. You look at it like this: Arsenal fans, right now they're not linked to a player like Harry Maguire. They're not linked to him, so they all say, he's shit, he's really crap. No, what a waste, man. Guy gets linked to Arsenal. Watch the pro Maguire agenda come out in full force. Look at the stats. Look at this. Look at his heading percentage. Look at this. Oh, he'd be really sick in this team. It's like, I can't. I just can't. I can't. But yeah, they should all be sacked. Why are they still reffing games? Well, I mean, VAR is probably one of the biggest reasons why we want referees sacked now. It's like it's the technology that I think it's such a shame, because VAR could have been the thing that perfected what refereeing was like before VAR. It's actually sent it the other way. And because it's become worse and it's less efficient for the game, it almost does football a better service if it wasn't there at all. Now, I think with the offside technology and goal line technology, things like that, that's decent. That's that's normal. It's like the Premier League, for example, offside technology in the Premier League sucks. There's other competition like Champions League the offside technology in that, where it draws a wall, it drops a wall, and it zooms in to where all both the defending player and attacking player's body, their limbs are. Draws it in line, drops a wall right there to where the most furthest legal part of the defender is, and you can see how much of the legal part of the attacker is actually through that wall, and then you can say, well, that 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 just, we don't have to think about, oh, well, it is offside, it isn't offside. It's factual. It's right there, and you can see it, and you could see it like that.
Exactly. That's the difference.
But
Just want to add on to that. Just saying goodbye to Mama Flossie. She's out. Her bed is calling. She's saying good night. Night, Mama Flossie.
Thanks for tuning in.
Well, this season, if you look at VAR, in my eyes, it's worse than it was from compared to last season. And not being funny, if you look at today's game, I think that's the first time I've seen in months they've actually drawn a line on the pitch for the offside decision. But other than that, you haven't this season. I mean, the typical one was the Arsenal one with the ball allegedly going out of touch, and when they did show you it, it was at a completely different angle to what you normally would see it. So it comes down to the system works. The technology doesn't fail that badly. It's down to human error more than anything else, and we hear that in the comments what they're saying. But when you look at, like, for instance, the typical one was the Man City game when the ball got played through to Grealish and he goes through and then they pull it back, and then it's a case of it was a genuine mistake, and we're all supposed to sit around and say, no problems at all, genuine mistake, of course we'll let you off on that one. But for the likes of teams down at the bottom, teams at the top, that makes the difference of being relegated or winning the league. A decision like that.
It's like Brighton last season had like 3 or 4 apology letters from VAR. It's like, but that's 3 or 4 games that we could have been. Let's say they lost all of those games, and I think they did. That's 12 points.
It's a big thing, isn't it? It's a big difference
12 points difference. You could
massive
be
thing
off worse, and that's the thing. If you are a bottom of the table team, 12 points is so significant between being in the relegation zone and out of it, and your feet are dry. So with VAR and officiating the way it is, if you have to apologize for anything, you are doing something so cataclysmically wrong.
Well, you've just admitted you are wrong, haven't you? If you're doing letters like that, you're basically saying that you were wrong. And if we give you this letter, there's a £5 coffee voucher in there as well, and that just to kind of make you feel happy. Here you go. We're so sorry for it. How is that going to go down?
We'll give you a full trip, all expenses paid trip to Burger King. All of you and all the players that played in that game.
Yeah, but make sure you look at the actual kind of end of date. We've given you the one that's run out by a month, but still take it anyway. Our apologies.
Tell you what, with I know that a lot of the conversation about refereeing nowadays, or refereeing just in general, a lot of referee perceptions on things, it's all a subjective case. I think if a referee has to apologise for something, it's no longer subjective. And
100%.
the thing is that when the game is solely officiated by a perspective of subjectivity, that's nothing to apologise for. That is a referee sticking by what he genuinely believes and what he's seen, and basing a decision off of that. We can sit after the game and say, well, that's right or that's wrong. At least that's a natural decision made by an official that at that moment of the game felt like that was the right call to make, with the rules in mind. Now it's people talking about, well, I don't know what the rules are anymore. That's because there's like, when you go to the rules page of the official or the officiating law, you don't just get one part in like a 3-line paragraph anymore. It's just about 5,000 pages of the way in which this rule differs for different situations, and it's like the handball rules. Who knows what the live handball rules are? Because they might have been different from last week. They might have been different this week. We don't know until we see it enacted, to then to speculate. Did it change? Has it changed? Because who knows? Because they don't have to tell us anything. They don't have to tell us, oh, there's been a rule change. They could do that without saying, without muttering a word, and no one would actually have known, because they might be testing it. They might be doing a pilot of it in a few games, and then deciding if it works at the end of the season. Oh, official rule change, guys. And that's the thing. They might be doing some games where they test different rules out, but they don't tell anybody, because if they did say, everyone would be absolute. There'll be riots. There'll be absolute riots. It's just like, well, the reason why this team lost because they got screwed out of a decision. Well, it's not actually because they got screwed. It's because we actually went with different rules. Where with every other team that played that weekend, the rules were normal for them, but it was different for this game, because we want to figure out if there is a way in which we could change this game. And that's the thing. If you're able to practice it, it's like they probably think, well, it gives us a better chance because that's them training for those new rules. But that's horrendous. That'd be horrendous to do.
Yeah, because that's where it comes to the inconsistency, isn't it? I think there was one a couple of weeks back. You saw one decision was given, and then the same thing happened, I think, the week after, and it wasn't given. So it comes down to the perception of the referees. One will say that, okay, if it hits me here, it's handball. But if it's up here, it's no problems at all. Like that, when you look at Matty Cash with the Arsenal game, was it handball or wasn't it? In theory, if you look at the rules, it wasn't handball. But the fact that Havertz hits it twice with his hand before he scores.
Or is that when Erdegaard was playing prime Michael Jordan basketball on a football pitch?
Yeah.
And everyone's just like, hold on a second, but how is that not handball? It's like, I mean, I'm sure if you do a basketball dribble on a football pitch, it's like, what's different from him going down to the other end and doing a hoop shot, just tossing over the goalkeeper? Well, I mean, what's the difference? They're both, the ball is being controlled and dictated with the hand. What rule dictates? And because it's on a replay, the referee and VAR can literally just bring it up and say, well, that's referee, pause the game, just bring it back to that point there, because Erdegaard has just basketball dribbled the ball on a football pitch. Like, just do it as a set piece free kick from that position, and it would be instant. It'd just be in the referee's ear, like, of course, we've seen that happen. Just bring it back to that. And
but did you notice though on that one, Hot Fuzz, and that you didn't hear any kind of comments from the manager? Funny enough. Whereas before, when it's the other way around, just saying, big up to Dave there, old school gunner.
It's a fucking disgrace, guys.
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? It goes both ways. But yeah, I didn't set out for work. Turned 44 yesterday.
Oh well, happy birthday!
Happy birthday, mate.
Happy belated birthday. And happy Christmas as well. I mean, Jesus, that's isn't that a Christmas Day? Christmas Day birthday. Seeing Arsenal fans try to justify Odegaard violating that football with his hands was funny. I just see you just writing Arseball. Might as well be. They're watching a different sport to us. But anyway, so I'll probably wrap up the show there, because we are about 3 minutes away from midnight. I'll best not make it the Tuesday and Wednesday stream. But big ups to everybody in the chat. Thank you very much for tuning in. Really appreciate the love and support. We're up to 10 likes on the stream. If we can hit any higher than that, that would be fantastic. But that's a stream target hit. And of course, big ups to Early Doors Football TV for joining me on Match Reaction.
You're welcome, mate, and big up to yourself as well, mate. And make sure you guys subscribe to this young man to my left, right, centre, ran in circles, wherever he is. HotFuzz44, make sure you subscribe to this guy as well. Great content and always a pleasure being on his channel.
And likewise as well. I mean, make sure you also subscribe to Early Doors Football TV as well. West Ham content creator. Quite a few bits of content coming up for games. If you'd like to share with the chat what you have got coming up on your channel.
Well, obviously, I'm going to try and do the Arsenal game, and then obviously for next year, I'll be looking to do a lot more collab work, and yeah, a few other things in the pipeline, which are a little bit different from others. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Lovely stuff. Anyways, that's it from us for tonight. Once again, thank you very much for
Cheers,
everybody tuning in. Big ups to the channel regulars, and we'll be back again very soon. No knowledge as to when precisely, because I don't operate my YouTube by schedule, because there's nothing in my life that runs to schedule. So it's literally, unlike the Joker, do I look like a guy that has a plan? I just do. I just do. So
sorry, I've just seen the great comment from Yeti.
well, my stream plans are like they're being tossed, so I guess you could call me a stream tosser. So there's probably some truth to that, but big ups Yeti. But
yeah, don't forget to subscribe to that geezer as well. You know, that long-haired twat, and obviously old school gunner as well. And don't forget for that guys, Nat, and obviously kudos and all the others in the great chat as well.
Yeah, and keeping it real Chelsea as
always.
well.
Yeah, absolutely.
AFC always. Luca AFC as well. All of these guys. But that's it for us tonight. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you on the next one. Ciao for now.
Take care.